We are in the process of collecting the evidences. So the evidence could be collected either from live data or from memory or from forensic or from drives. So these are the three possible categories. Even from networks we do collect. So that also comes under, we can categorize that under live response also. Uh, so from various memory sources also you can collect data. So from the live responses you can collect both volatile and non-volatile data. So then we started discussing about the forensic duplication. So forensic duplication is more than copying. Copying is simply taking a copy, taking the uh, collecting the information available in a particular file or a folder. So imaging is more than that. If you image a device, if you image a drive, the entire drive portion will be copied, will be taken with you. You can consider that for investigation. So, for example, you want to recover a deleted file. Give me a second. Yeah. You want to recover data from a deleted file, like, mm, you know,
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Only now it is audible.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Now it's okay, ma'am.
Oh, okay, so we are in the morning session. We discussed about the various steps in IR process. In the IR process, we are in the second step, that is investigation. During investigation, we discussed about the IR life cycle, the various steps you process through. So in that, we have obtained the system of interest by passing through various IOC creation, IOC deployment based on the hit value. we reached the SOI, we identified the system of interest. So when you have all the systems of interest with you, then you can go for data collection. So these are all the various sources from which you can collect data. So in this particularly, we are concentrating on forensic duplication. So forensic duplication is more than copying. Copying will simply take away whatever the content available. All the missed content and all you cannot take with you with simple copying. But with forensic duplication, it is possible to recover even a deleted file. I am explaining how it is possible. See here, the shaded portions are filled portions. All the these denotes the empty things, unallocated spaces. Now I try to create a new space. I'm sorry. This is file F1. Imagine this is file F2, and this is file F3. Now this is file F3. The content is this. So for every file, you will have entry in the corresponding data structure. So that maintains all the metadata about the files you have in your file system. So here I have F1, F2, F3. For all the files, I have the metadata. So now I want to delete the file F3. So what I will do is, I want to go to the corresponding location. I will not remove anything from the location. Instead, I will just remove the mapping here. Here I will have a map, right? The address, starting address of this file and the ending address of this file. So that will be there. No, I will just remove that information. I will mark that as this space is no longer allocated to F3. That means I am removing the map. I am unmapping it. Unmap the link between the location and the file name. So this has been unmapped. This is done. That's it. But the content is not physically removed. Logically, it is removed. Physically, the content remains there. Now, the space allotted, no. So this space, no. So this will be considered as free space. Just like all the other free spaces, this is also considered as free space. That is unallocated space. Unallocated space. Now I guess my evidence that I am searching for, that evidence could be available in this. The attacker would have been created, some file would have been created that could be evidence. The attacker would have deleted that. So if I have the knowledge about the file system, I can easily recover it. I can easily recover. How can I recover? I will take a duplicate of forensic duplicate of the entire drive. I will investigate the unallocated space alone. If I properly investigate the unallocated space, there is a possibility of getting my evidence back. So this is how the tools, all the deleted files recovery tools are being served. Uh, this is the methodology of all such tools working methodology. And the other names for forensic duplication is bitwise duplication, sector copying, and physical imaging. This is the difference between simple and forensic duplication. Simple duplication is just copying the selected data, a selected file, a selected folder, a selected partition. Only the data available that has proper mapping with the file system alone will be visible, alone can be copied. But with forensic duplication, every bit on the source is retained, everything can be collected, so including the deleted files. So whenever you go for investigation, the evidence will be considered as a solid one if it is an image. If it is a copy, the court may not accept it. So to take a copy of that, to take image of the entire drive, it is not possible to do it manually. You need requirement of tools. The characteristics of tools we have discussed in the morning session. So here we are discussing about the three image formats. You can have a complete disk image format, or partition image format, or logical image. So complete image format will collect all the information about the disk. Yeah, everything. The full partition will be, this is the layout, drive layout. Every information, boot sector information, OEM information, everything will be collected. And here
And the next topic is partition imaging. Partition imaging tools will allow you to specify an individual partition or volume. Instead of taking copy of the entire drive, it allows you to take a individual partition or individual volume can be copied from this to this, like that you can specify. Morning I recommended a tool, right? FTK Imager. If you download, it is openly available, open source only. FTK Imager. If you download that tool and install, you can see, you can take a partition image from this location to this location, or only D colon, or only E colon, like that. You can specify a partition and take image of that. So it contains all the allocation units from an individual partition over a drive. So within the drive, all the unallocated space, all the files lakes will be there. So files lake is nothing but the portion, the fragment of data left at the end of other files. Some portion could be there. Some portion of the file would be there in other files. So such small portion can also be taken with you by partition images. Where it is useful, situations at which locations partition image is useful. Sometimes the authority may not allow you to take full copy due to privacy reasons. You may not be allowed to take a copy of the entire hard drive. Then you need to go for partition image. And taking the entire hard disk with you, you need that much, you need to invest that much amount of space. You need to have that big data source with you, not data source, memory source with you. So that is not that may not be possible. So that time also partition imaging is better. So excessively large disk will be required. To avoid that, you can go for partition imaging. So when you are not sure about, there's a spelling mistake here. When you are not sure about the exact file, then you need to go for partition imaging. If you know the exact file name, you just take the file with you. You are not sure about the files preliminary information, then you can go for the entire partition copy. Then when you want to examine the unallocated space alone, you want to concentrate only on the unallocated space, then you can go for partition imaging. You need not keep a copy, you need not take image of all the allocated space also. Next is logical imaging. Logical imaging is more or less simple duplication, simple copying, but it is little better than simple copying. There are situations, at times you know about the file, you know the specific file names. At that time you can go for logical imaging. Only that particular file alone can be taken with you. When you have huge legal restrictions, you are not permitted to take copy of the full hard disk or the partitions hard disk. When that is not possible, then you can go for logical imaging. So only the files of interest alone will be copied, will be imaged. That is called things. So here some tools have been recommended. Some software, you can go for hardware tools as well, but which is expensive. So we go for software tools. The famous tool for Windows is FTK Imager. Then you have Ncase. Ncase works better for Windows, but still it is expensive. Then you have Unix based systems. You have DC3DD. So there are versions of DC3DD available, where DD is the basic version. So in which you do not have any hashing at all. No hash protection is given in DD. Then you have DCF1DD. Where hash function verification is available. Then the advanced version is DC3DD. So these work better, but you need to pay for it. If you want to use that, you need to pay for it. Okay. So next is volatile data collection and incident response toolkit. How in volatile data collection, how this IRTK, we usually call it as RTK, Response Toolkit. How it is helpful. So that is what we are going to discuss. So before starting about that, you need to identify whether what kind of system it is, whether the system that you are using is used that you are investigating, the system that you are investigating is the system used by the attacker, or it is the system got affected, it is the victim of an attack. So that you have to be clear about that. Based on that, you can go for data collection, volatile data collection. So it is pre-incident preparation. This is a pre-incident preparation and creation of RTK. Before getting into the incident, actually, incident, you need to
Ma'am, there is a problem in your mic exposed.
sir, is it okay now? How long, sir? How long you have?
Just now, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, in this slide, we are discussing about IRTK. We usually call that as RTK, Response Toolkit. So, how to create one? What is the purpose of that? RTK is nothing but a kind of package in which you will have all the tools, all the required tools will be collected into a single medium, so that you can proceed with your investigation. So, before getting into the actual incident, you need to prepare a RTK. So, so these are all the initial response steps. Creating the RTK, storing information obtained during the initial response, and obtaining volatile data. So first one is creating a RTK. RTK creation is very important. As I said, RTK is nothing but you can imagine RTK as a package which has so many tools in collected, and they all together put into a single medium in a floppy disk based on the size, in any flash memory, in CD drive or pen drive, in any safety location you need to keep it there. So that is what is that is all about RTK. So the steps involved here is gathering the tools and preparing the toolkit. First is gathering tools. Here are some tools have been displayed. I'll explain. First one is Netcat. So Netcat is a tool used to it is just like any other simple command prompt, like that some simple tool only. A Netcat is to create a communication channel between two different systems. Between two different systems, you can create a communication channel using Netcat. Whereas CryptCat is used to create a communication channel in an encrypted manner. In a secured manner, you can create the communication channel. Whereas PS log list is used to dump the contents of event logs. All the event log files, from the event log files, the contents can be collected through PS log list. Then you have IP config. So it is a built-in tool. These tools are for Windows. Please keep in mind, these tools are for Windows. So IP config is a built-in tool which displays interface configuration information. All the IP configuration information can be collected through IP config. It is a built-in tool. Likewise, you have PS info. It collects information about the local system. And PS file collects information that are opened remotely. All the files that were opened remotely, that information can be collected by PS file. Then PS service, it shows information about current processes and threads. All the process and thread informations are collected through PS service. Then we have audit poll. So it is used to display the current security audit test settings. If any changes done over the audit settings, that can be displayed. that can be verified through audit poll. Then the ASCII is again, this is one built-in tool, and again you have a built-in tool here. So the ASCII is a built-in tool that displays the command history. Okay, command history. Then CMD, we know command prompt. Any reliable command prompt has to be used. It is also a built-in tool, we know that. Then PS logged in. It shows all users connected locally as well as remotely. All the login informations can be collected by PS logged on. Both logons. Both local logons as well as remote logons. Whereas ROS users command shows which user have remote access privilege to the target system. So users who has remote access. Remote access. The users who has the remote access facility will be listed by ROS users. Netstat is a command that enumerates all the listening ports and all the current connections to those ports. All the listening port information can be collected by Netstat. Whereas Fport enumerates all processes that opened any TCP/IP protocol. If any TCP/IP ports is accessed, then that processes will be listed by Fport. Whereas PS list all the live processes, that is all the running processes will be displayed by PS list. And you have another tool called list DLLs. It lists all the running processes and their command line arguments. Command line arguments and the DLLs, dynamically linked library. Like it is very useful tool. For example, dynamically linked library is to execute some applications. We used to get such messages. There is no DLL file missing. Such informations we do receive, right? So that is sometimes the application would be using the local DLL. Otherwise, the DLL of other application. So that shared linking is possible. So that could be a clue. That could be a lead for further investigation. So, so list DLL lists all the running process and their command line arguments. And the DLL, dynamically linked library on which each process depends on. So that information will be displayed by DLL. And the NBT stat. NBT stat is another built-in tool. So this lists the recent NetBIOS connections within a period of time, within the last 10 minutes or something, who are all connected through NetBIOS. So that information can be collected. This is ARP. So ARP shows system's MAC address information of the system that the target system has been communicating with within the last 10 minutes. During the last 10 or 5 minutes, for all the systems that has got connected with this. So those systems MAC address will be collected by this. So kill, we know it is used to terminate a process. MD5 sum creates MD5 hashes for a given file. So for security purpose, you can go for MD sum. It creates a hash values for file content. Then RMC share displays the shares accessible on a remote machine. The systems that were all remotely sharing resources.
that could be collected. So this is just a small list. You have n number of such tools. So RTK is nothing but a package of all the tools necessary for the current investigation, or all the tools that you may need. Along with, you can have interpreter that converts the data that you collect. Would be most of the time would be will not be in human readable form. So you need to interpret that. You need to convert that into a readable format. You need some decoders. All such tools, depending on the case, depending on the incident under investigation, you can select the tools and make the toolkit. So this is step number 1 in creating toolkit. That is gathering the tools, identifying and gathering the tools. And the second step of creating RTK is preparing the toolkit. How am I going to prepare the toolkit? So this is actually involved with the 4 steps. First step is label the response toolkit medium. You need to properly label the toolkit media. Select the media, then label it properly. So you can the media could be a floppy disk or a CD or anything, pen drive or anything. This could be the response media. It must be labeled properly. So label in the sense it must have the case number, for which case number the RTK is created, what is the time and date of creation, name of investigator, who created the response media, then name of investigator who is using the response media, whether or not the response media contains output files or evidence, or in the same that is in the same medium, are you going to keep the evidences, whether it is going to have evidences or the output files of the output files of all the tools that you applied. Are you going to keep that in that or not? Yes or no? So that informations will be there in the label. So by reading all that, you can understand this toolkit is for this particular case. It was created at this time, created by whom, being used by. It is not necessarily the same person has to create and use. Not like that. It is a teamwork. One team will be creating, the other may be using it. And you may also need to have informations like any additional tools after creation, any additional tools added, what are they, when they have been added, all the information has to be clearly mentioned in the label. Then the second step is check for dependencies. Dependency is whether the toolkit is independent. Can all the tools will execute independently, or they need any DLLs or any other support files from this system? Is it going to take any files for its proper execution or not? So that is what is check for dependencies. But it is recommended to have a independent toolkit. That is what is the author is recommending. And the third one is create a checksum for the response toolkit. That is verifying the response toolkit. It is not corrupted. So that for that you need to create a checksum. That is, it is not being updated. The number of tools are the working of tools, a date, nothing should have been modified. So protection of response toolkit has to be verified with the help of checksum. And right to protect any toolkit floppies. So it should be right protected one. No one else should be allowed to alter the content of the toolkit. So this is how you will create a response toolkit. Any doubts? And next we are discussing about storing information obtained during initial response. So as we said, during initial response, after initial response, we will collect the leads. So those leads can be stored at hard disk, or you can just make note in a notebook, or in floppy disk, or in any forensic, remote forensic systems. Remote forensic system, in the sense, this is the victim place. Imagine this is your victim place, victim system, and here is your forensic station. And the data has to be transferred from this to this. So that can be done remotely by making use of the tools Netcat and CryptCat. As I said, Netcat and CryptCat are used to create a communication channel for data transfer. With CryptCat, you can securely transfer data. So transferring data with Netcat, encrypting data with CryptCat. So with the help of these tools, you can remotely what transfer the data, whatever you collected at initial response. So here some tasks, obtaining volatile data. What are all the commands, what are all the tools one may use? For example, first step is executing a trusted cmd.exe. You will execute a cmd file. Second step is recording the system time and date. Third step is determining who is logged into the system, who are all the remote access users. That one you will find. So how can you find that? How can you find who is logged in? Did we see any tool for this? How do you get all the users currently logged on? Is there in the screen now? Which command can be used? Which tool can be used to identify? Okay, let me continue. So data transfer, what are we? So for this, you can use PS logged on. For this, you can use PS logged on. This is a tool you can use. I think I received the answer in the chat box. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Yeah. Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you for responding. Uh, then to get information about the remote access users, you can use RAS users. And for recording modification, creating and access time of all the files, we know this one we know der slash. If you give this command, it will get that. Then how do you determine all the open ports, all the list of ports that are all open currently? How do you get that? Can you tell from here? So NetStart will help you to identify all the open ports. Then listing applications associated with the open ports. So for that, you can make use of F port. So F port will list all the applications associated with the ports that are all currently open. And all the running process information can be collected from PS list. Current and recent connections can be obtained. NBT starts ARP. So those commands can be used. You can get the system time and date information, record them, then documenting the commands used during initial response. All the commands you have used can be identified, like history, history command, key command, used to get history of commands. All the commands used during the initial response. So this is how you create the RTK response toolkit, and you'll use that to collect the volatile data. Volatile data. So from the volatile data only, you will get the initial leads. These initial leads will be identified or as good or bad. If it is a good lead, you can go for IOC. After from the IOC, you can collect the system of interest. In the system of interest, you will collect data. Then data has to be converted into evidence. From the data, you need to analyze and discover evidences, electronic evidences from the data. So that is how that is the process chain. So now here you are discussing about data analysis. So in data analysis, you will analyze the collected data, whatever you collected, volatile or non-volatile, from memory, from hard disk. It could be a forensic duplicate, any kind, or you could have collected data from networks, emails, anything you could have collected data. So how do you examine that? So that is what is data analysis. So you must examine the collected data with the focus of answering all the investigation questions that you defined during the starting of your incident response. During while starting the incident response, you might have defined some objectives, some goals of investigation. So you must focus on answering all the investigation questions. You need to analyze the in that focus with that concentration, you need to examine the collected data. Analyzed results must be documented. Most of the incident response, his time is spent here in data analysis, because collection and all mostly you will do won't take that much time, because analyzation takes lots of time, because you will collect huge amount of data from, you must investigate all that. Even with the help of the tools you do also, it is a time taking process. Then major analysis areas include malware analysis, live response analysis, forensic examination, and sometimes you will also investigate the tools that used by the attacker. Attacker tools will also be analyzed. Will also be considered for analysis. So here is the analysis methodology. So analysis methodology, the first step is define and understand the objectives. Second step is obtain relevant data, then inspect the data content, perform any necessary conversion or normalization, select a method, perform the analysis, and evaluate the result. So we are going to see each and every step in detail. First one is define objectives. So the data in your hand maybe could be a small text file, or it could be a large file, large server log file, which is of size in terabytes, or it could be a malware file. It could be an attacker tool. It could be a forensic image of a hard disk, or it could be anything that you are not at all aware of. You are unable to see the file format. What kind of file it is, that is also we are unable to recognize. Such files could also be there. So data may be of anything. Keeping that in mind, you need to define the objectives. So the step we are here, we are here in, we have collected the data, we are going to analyze the data. This is the analyzation methodology. The data that we collect could be anything. It could be a text file, or it could be a log file, or it could be a image, or it could be a malware file. So some exe, or it could be a tool used by the attacker tool. It could be a attacker tool, or anything unknown, or could be anything unknown. So any of these could have been under investigation, under analysis. So these are all the steps of analysis. First step is define the objectives. So one must have commanding knowledge in both the situation as well as technology. So the one who has commanding knowledge in the situation as well as technology alone can define the objectives. So the objectives should answer the investigation questions like what are you looking to determine? Is it possible to form a conclusion from the facts that you have now? How long will it take to complete the investigation? What resources one may need? Who is interested in the results, in your identifications? What do they plan to do with them? What could they plan to do with them? So we need to have clear understanding of these types of questions before start performing the analysis. To define the objective, leadership is very important, and everyone in the team must be aware about the objective question goals of the investigation. So you need to identify who will define the objective. Entire team must be aware about the leader and the objectives he approved. This reduces the miscommunication or loss of focus. To have that, you must have a clear objective. And one more recommendation the author gives us is one has to work on proving negativity. Like you cannot attempt to prove that a server is not compromised. For example, it is easy to prove that the server is compromised. So try to focus, try to collect, try to analyze towards that point, towards the negative side. The server got attacked, the server is compromised. So proving that is easier than the server is not compromised. Proving is not compromised is really difficult. I hope you get this point. This is very important. The server is not compromised. To prove that, how much ever evidence you give, that won't be enough. No enough information or all trials cannot cover any positive thing. Positive, what to say? Proving positivity is not possible in the case of policemen சொல்லுவாங்களே எப்பவுமே ஒரு சந்தேக பார்வை இருக்கணும்.
So similarly here also you work towards the negative side. So every time you need to document things, and your objective should not be too vague. mm, Too vague in the sense, check in the email, check in the hard disk. Be specific. Email from this particular duration, email from this particular sender, like that. Be specific about the things. And next thing is know your data. Know your data is about where you can store the data. The data can be stored at a desktop or laptop. uh, that also you can have your data at hard disk, hard drives, or external storages, or virtual desktops. If it is server, the data could be at data centers, server rooms, etc. Open racks, virtual servers, even in virtual servers. It could be there in mobile devices like PDAs, phones, mobile phones, PDAs, tablets, wearable computers. If it is storage solutions, it could be CD, DVD, external hard disk, etc. Network devices like firewalls, switches, routers. Then cloud services. These are the offsite third-party services. Then backups. Backups can be stored in local device backup or offsite backups to protect the data from natural disasters. So offsite backups could be there on external sources like a tape, DVD. Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So these are all the areas from which you may happen to investigate the data. And what kind of data will be there? There is a possibility of having operating system data, OS data. OS data, as I said, the file system data. File system data like NTFS, FAT, so those informations. In file system data, you will have knowledge about the allocation units. Active files, you can collect informations about active files, and deleted files. You will get timestamp informations.
Information about all the unallocated space. Then files like partition table. So these informations can be obtained from operating system. Like operating systems, file system. Then in operating system, you can get informations about state information. We know what is state, process states, uh, which are all the processes that are all currently in running state. That information can be obtained from operating system. Then port state. One is process states and port states, which are all the ports that are all currently open, through which the attack could happen. The attack could have happened. So port states information can be obtained. Um, then OS logs, OS log files. So all the log informations, who are all have logged in, what is the login time, logout time, application well used, all that. Uh, then operating system specific data sources, OS specific data sources. So this is one important, very important aspect in the case of computer forensics. That is, you must have thorough knowledge if you want to become an investigator. If you want to become a computer forensic personality, then you must have thorough knowledge about the operating system, the subject operating system. Like if you properly investigate the OS data, you will collect really solid evidences you can collect. Like if you investigate the registries, Windows, imagine it is a Windows operating system, and if you investigate Windows registry, for very sure you will get solid information, solid data. If it is Unix, it is syslog, system log. This has it is equal to Windows registry. If it is Apple, you have Apple based system, you have plist files. These files is equal to this. So registry for everything will be there. All the thing, whatever happened in the system, everything has a copy. All the entry, exit time, all details you can find in the registries. So this is about the operating system. Any doubts? Then application. Regarding the application, the next case is application. Uh, it is an application specific artifact, like internet browser cache. You can collect internet browser cache. Uh, Nowadays, easily we need not go human readable form. It is there in human readable form. Browser cache can be analyzed, the database files, web server logs, chart program, user preferences can be analyzed, email client data files. So these are some, depending on the application, every application specific files data will be created. So that can be analyzed. User data, particular user specific data like user emails, user created documents, spreadsheets, source codes, day-to-day activity file, day-to-day system files that have been created. Likewise, specific users can collect data. Then network services and instrumentation, the data that you collect from various network sources like firewalls, switches, network flow data. By a proper NMS, network monitoring system, you can collect the network flow data. Whatever the data being passed to and from devices can be collected. So these are all the various types of data that you may comes that may comes for your investigation. Then how to access your data, because all that it is not possible to read the data all the time, because data formats vary. The format that the victim system has may not be supported in the forensic system. So data format changes would be there. Raw data could be in encrypted or compressed or encoded manner. So you need them to be in a uncompressed or decoded or decrypted version. So appropriate tool or software is necessary. And sometimes the attacker could have been used a customized format. Some custom format would have been used, which cannot be cracked by us. So that is also a issue in accessing the data. Uh, you need to determine, you need to browse to know the format of the data that is in your hand. So that by possessing such knowledge, you can, by enriching with such knowledge, you can access the data. Okay. For that also, FTK imager helps a lot. NCase or FTK imager also helps you to interpret or decompress. For with all that, it helps. Okay. Here are some procedures, a sample approach for data analysis. You must identify where to start the analysis. You must have a goal. What are you looking for? Uh, you must have knowledge about network and host. Uh, you must have knowledge about some generic activities, some abnormal user activities, how it would look like, login activity outside the expected hours, odd connection duration, unexpected connection sources. That is remote session from a workstation to a server, that never happens. So such unexpected connection source could be a activity of suspect. Then periods of abnormally high CPU or disk utilization, file artifacts associated with the use of common compression tools, recently installed or modified services, and the presence of other persistence mechanism. So all that can be identified if you investigate properly. OS data, application data, user data, network service data, all that. So after that, you need to select the methods. The next step is you need to select a method. So here are the methods. Use of external resources, manual inspection, use of specialized tools, data minimization through sorting and filtering mechanism, statistical analysis, keyword searching, file and record carving. So these are some methods for data analysis. You can follow any of the method, or hybrid of these methods can also be followed depending on the incident in your hand. Depending on the case under investigation, you can opt the method of data analysis. The first method is use of external resources like antivirus software, Bit9, virus portal. Like any external resource can be used for analysis purpose. Second one is what? Uh, Second one is about manual inspection. Manual inspection, actually, for according to cyber forensics, right from the first minute, I am keep telling tools are very necessary, very essential. But it is not possible to rely so much over tools. Uh, Manual inspection is also necessary at cases. But hopefully, if the data items is small,
small items are there for investigation, then you can go for manual inspection. You can think of some shortcut methods. Manual inspection, but reliable shortcut methods can be applied. Uh, Actually, manual inspection is useful while validating other methods, like you already have done with your tool, a specialized tool. If you want to revisit it, then you can go for manual inspection. Just to ensure the correctness of the tool, you can go for manual inspection. So you can done it for over a sample of data. Only that is possible. You can't do it fully manual, in manual manner. Just for reliability purpose, manual inspection can be added. And the next method is use of specialized tools. uh, Use of specialized tool is, as I said, you can't trust tools too much, but tools has to be used. They can be used for data visualization, browser artifact analysis, malware identification, file system metadata reporting. For all that, tools has to be used. Tools are being used. They always verify important findings by manually, or with a standard tools, or with a second tool. So every tool has its own bugs, merits and demerits. So you can revisit it with another tool, you can match the results. That's all we can do. And the next method is data minimization. uh, Usually, for example, you are investigating a file system, where file system metadata will have hundreds and thousands of files in it. So how do you investigate? So you need to exclude irrelevant data, or you can focus on some particular duration. The files created during this day alone can be considered for investigation. So that is what is data minimization. You can apply some filtering mechanism, date, or creator, user who created the file, or last modified time, created time. Some criteria can be applied to filter the list. Likewise, you can apply sorting also. You can sort based on the file name or based on the time of creation. So these kind of data minimization helps you to investigate easily and quickly. Even manually, you can do the investigation. Next suggestion they provide is statistical analysis. Statistical analysis is useful to uncover patterns and or anomalies. Well, you don't know exactly what you are looking for or how to find it. So huge amount of data is there. You are not sure about what are you looking for, or you lag with the lead. The clue that you have is not solid. That case, you can go for statistical analysis, because with the statistical analysis, you get the anomalies can be, or any abnormality can be easily captured, isn't it? That is why we are going for statistical analysis. Yeah, anywhere, for any case, that is the case. The visualization would be better. You can easily locate the abnormality. So it is useful to uncover patterns or anomalies, especially while you don't know exactly what you are looking for or how to find it. So in that case, it would be better. For example, if you investigate web server logs, huge amount of logs would have been done over the web servers. So there you can apply the statistical analysis. Tools like SAML are helpful to do the statistical analysis. The next analysis is let me have some water. Next is keyword searching. String or keyword searching. Like then create the list of strings relevant to the case. You just create the keyword list. You can search for you can search for those strings in the file list or in the files or in the emails or in the documents, whatever the content data you have with you. You can just compare that. That helps you to filter. That helps you to reduce the size of data under investigation. You can further keep adding strings like keywords additionally. During this process, you can keep adding. You are done when you are not finding any more new strings to search for. So till then, you can keep on adding keywords. And the last one is file carving. File carving is very important one, especially in forensic investigation. File carving is something, we know what is file recovery. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
We know what is file recovery. Deleted files can be recovered, as I said earlier. Will be all the deleted files. Physically, the content would not be deleted. That will be available in the location, but only the mapping would have been removed. So that can be collected by properly investigating the free space, that is the unallocated space. And if the unallocated spaces earlier we had this diagram. So some portions have been already used, and this is F1, F2, and F3. File F3, the space is released. So the content will be there, but it is considered as an unallocated space. X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6. These are the sector number. So now I have allocated space and unallocated space with me. In the allocated space, I have earlier I had X2, X3, and X4. Here I had X1, X5, and X6. I wanted to remove the file F3, which is at X2. So now this space is considered as unallocated space, isn't it? Now I want to create a new file called F4, to which I need some portion of memory. So from unallocated space, the space has been allocated. So this X2 has been allotted for F4. So already some content was there. So imagine this is your X3, X2. So already some content was there. In that, I am overwriting some portion for F4. Some portion is overwritten. But the remaining portion is still F3.
while carving is nothing but carving from the what available data. Now I try to retrieve the data, but I'm unable to do because portion of the data has lost. F4 has been written there. So from the available data, if I try to cook up the original data, that is called carving. During data analysis, one can also go for carving. Is it clear? And finally, evaluating the results. Once you are done with the analysis, data analysis, you can go for evaluation. Results can be evaluated. So when do you have to evaluate? Are you going to do it periodically throughout the analysis? Then and there, you can check for progress. Are you making any progress actually? So that can be verified by periodically evaluating the results. Or you can even make at the end, after completing the full investigation, how well the investigative questions were answered. That can be verified, evaluated at the end of the investigation. So this is what is evaluation. And so, as I said earlier, IR process consists of 3 steps. Initial response, investigate, then remediate. These two, now we are done. This is remediation. So we have analyzed, we have collected the data. The collected data has been converted into evidence. Now we are at the stage of remediation. So remediation is something you can plan different remediations, different cases, different remediation plan has to be created depending on the investigation. So you will create the plan. The plans vary from case to case. The plan should consider all the legal actions, business actions, political and technical information. Everything has to be considered while creating the remedial plan. With remediation, timing is really crucial because you can't start the remedial action immediately. Okay. Immediately in the sense, too soon. You heard about the incident, immediately you start the remediation. Without proper investigation, you start remediation means you may fail to account for any new information or yet to consider information. You have just assessed the impact. So for all the impact, you have started giving the remedial actions. You have started taking the remedial actions. No, that should not be the case. You may miss out something. Some impact could happen, may yet to happen. So those cases, you can't start too earlier, too soon. It is not possible. Can I start it? Can I postpone the remedial action to later stage after completing all the investigation? After submitting that to the court, can I start the remediation? No, that is also should not be the case. Considering amount of damage may increase to any level. So attacker could change his practice also. So based on your investigation, he will change the practice. Because in remediation only, we will close all the ports that were open. We will close all the loopholes. We will identify. We will communicate with the customers. We will communicate with the senior employees, management. Everything is remedial actions. If I postpone that, all the business things will be stopped. The attacker will think for another loophole. He may follow some other tactics. So this could be there. So timing is very, very crucial with the action of remediation. We need to find the best timing to start the remedial actions. So there are 3 approaches for remediation. One is posturing, tactical, and strategic. There are 3 approaches: posturing, tactical, and strategic. Whereas posturing is establishing the protocol, establishing the new protocol that stops the attack to happen again. Then exchanging the contact information. Contact information, if anything happens like that, whom to contact, whom he should report to. So that exchange of contact information has to be there. Designating responsibilities, whose responsibility is this if anything happens. So such designating responsibilities should be done. Visibility has to be increased. Resources should be scheduled properly. Timelines should be coordinated. So these are all the various remediation actions comes under posturing. And the second approach is tactical. So it is the posturing is the process of ensuring the success of remediation. So it ensures the success of remediation, whereas tactical is a short-term remediation. Short-term remedial actions to address the current indication, current incident actually. Rebuild compromised systems according to the particular incident, by particular indications. What do you do? So you'll rebuild the compromised system, will change the passwords, block the IP addresses from that suspects, informing customers, making internal or public announcements, changing a business approach. So these are all the tactical remedial actions. This is depending on, it is completely case dependent, incident dependent. Whereas a strategic is long-term approach. It is for long-term improvements. So this may require significant changes within an organization. Organization chart itself may be recommended to be modified. It is for long-term improvement, not case specific. So actually, it is not there in the standard IR life cycle. It is beyond that. Just for an information sake, we are conveying this here. So with this, I'm completing the session. If you have any queries, you may ask. I think I've completed on time. If you have anything to discuss, please feel free to ask.
Participants, you have any queries? I think. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. It's a kind of power-packed session for the last two sessions. Definitely, the participants they got a very good idea about this particular area. And thank you very much, ma'am, for with us for the past two sessions, because hardly around more than 3 years. Thank you very much. On behalf of our college and CFD Anna University, I thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, participants, for your patience listening after lunch break. It shows your interest on this particular course. Thank you all. We will meet again by 3:15. We have another session, recent trends in cybercrime, by Dr. Murugan, IPS, is Inspector General of Police. I request everyone to join by 3:10.
We'll get a lot of information from him, sir.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, participants. We will join by 3:10.